You don't notice it the first time. The gate agent's tone, the way security waves some people through a different line, the seat that costs 3 times more but somehow feels like a different universe. Airlines don't treat everyone the same. They never have. Flying isn't a convenience. It's a calculated risk. You book the cheapest fare available, often on a budget carrier, often with a layover that adds 4 hours to save $40. You pack your own snacks because a bottle of water at the gate costs $6. You measure your carry-on twice at home because a bag fee can wipe out what you saved on the ticket itself. Boarding group, last. Seat, middle back third of the plane next to the lavatory. No priority security lane. No lounge. If your flight gets delayed, you're on hold with customer service for 90 minutes, and the agent on the other end has no real power to help you, just a script. This isn't an accident, it's the economics of low-margin air travel. At this level, you are the volume. You are not the customer they design comfort around, you're the customer they design efficiency around. Somewhere between $10,000 and $50,000 in net worth, small changes start. You've got a travel rewards credit card now. Maybe a free checked bag. Maybe priority boarding Group 3 instead of Group 9. You start choosing airlines based on loyalty programs, not just price. You know which airline's app doesn't crash. You've learned the unspoken rules, how early to check in, which seat has extra legroom for $10 more. But here's the truth. You're still in economy. You're still standing in the same security line as everyone else. The upgrade at this stage isn't in how you're treated, it's in how much stress the flight costs you. Small comfort, same treatment. At $100,000 to $500,000 in net worth, things genuinely start to shift. At this wealth level, people typically fly enough for work for life that airline status becomes achievable. Silver or gold tier. Maybe access to TSA pre-check, cutting your security wait from 40 minutes to 4. You get a free checked bag automatically. Sometimes a complimentary upgrade to extra legroom seating. Priority boarding, not last, not first, but early enough that overhead bin space is no longer a gamble. More importantly, the way staff speak to you changes. Status members get first access to a dedicated phone line when flights are canceled, one with actual rebooking authority, not just a script. When a flight is oversold, you are no longer the person they ask to volunteer your seat. You are quietly becoming someone the airline doesn't want to lose. This is the first stage where wealth stops just buying comfort. It starts buying priority in a crisis. At $1 to $5 million in net worth, flying starts to look completely different, even though you might still be sitting in economy or premium economy on some routes. You likely hold top-tier airline status or a premium credit card that includes lounge access. Free food, free alcohol, quiet seating, actual bathrooms without lines. If your flight is delayed, you find out from a lounge agent standing 3 feet away. Not a crowded gate announcement. Business class becomes a real option for long-haul flights, especially with points. Fully reclining seats, priority baggage. Your suitcase is often the first one on the belt, not the last. But the biggest shift isn't physical, it's informational. At this wealth level, you start getting told things before other passengers do. Gate changes, delay likelihood, standby odds, simply because you're now worth retaining as a customer. The airline isn't just serving you, it's starting to manage you. At $10 to $25 million in net worth, flying commercial is now a choice, not a necessity. But when it happens, it's first class as the default, not the exception. Fully enclosed suites on international routes. A dedicated flight attendant assigned to a small handful of first-class passengers. Priority everything. Check-in counters with 0 lines. Dedicated security screening in some airports. Boarding whenever you feel like walking to the gate. At major hubs, this is also where private terminal access becomes realistic. Arrive by car directly to a lounge. Skip the main terminal entirely. Board the plane minutes before departure. The psychological shift is even bigger. At this level, the airline is no longer worried about losing you as a customer. They're worried about how you talk about them to other people at this wealth level. Word of mouth among wealthy travelers is worth more than any single ticket. At $50 million, the entire concept of how airlines treat you stops applying because you've largely left commercial aviation behind. Private aviation at this level usually means either full ownership of a jet, fractional ownership through a jet card program, or charter service on demand. There is no security line. There is no gate. You drive to a private terminal called an FBO, walk across the tarmac and board. There's no boarding group because there's no one else boarding. The flight leaves when you're ready, not the other way around. If you're 2 hours late, the plane waits. If you want to change your destination mid-flight, in many cases, you actually can. At this level, you're not a customer of an airline treating you well. You're the client of an aviation service built entirely around your schedule. The entire framework of how are they treating me inverts. You're not hopping for good treatment anymore. You're paying for total control. Step back and look at what actually changed across this entire journey. It wasn't the plane. Planes fly the same speed whether you paid $200 or $20,000. What changed was time and information at $0. You wait in every line. You get told nothing until the last moment, and you have zero leverage when something goes wrong. At $50 million, you wait in no lines, you're told everything in advance, and you have complete leverage over your own schedule. Wealth in air travel isn't really about luxury seating or champagne. It's about who has to wait for whom. At the bottom, you wait for the airline. At the top, the airline waits for you. Most people will spend their entire lives somewhere in the middle of this ladder, never in the very back row with no status, but never in a private jet either. And that's fine. Understanding the ladder isn't about resenting the people above you. It's about knowing exactly what each rung actually buys so you can decide, deliberately, which comforts are actually worth chasing, and which ones you're paying for just because everyone else seems to want them. If this changed how you'll look at your next flight, subscribe, because next week we're doing the same breakdown for hospitals. How healthcare actually treats you differently from $0 to 50 million. Comment below, which stage on this list have you actually experienced?